lo moto.
My journey begins with the known world and the call to adventure. The known world is the world that the hero or heroine lives in, which englobes their current situation, their problems and urges, and within it, it is the call to adventure, which is defined in Campbell's work as a factor that must be restored to balance within the hero's history. In my journey, the known world is the bubble that I live in before getting into college. Variables such as high school, my friends, and parents were part of that world that I knew. The call to adventure is the need that burns in me to become an engineer and to be good at it, hence why I enrolled in the chemical engineering avenue. However, I encountered some problems early on in my journey, and thus I got to know my first threshold. The first threshold is defined as the laws of the world that hold the hero vulnerable and make their limits come to light. And thus, my first threshold was my poor fundamentals in maths since high school. I only had 2 good teachers in those 6 semesters, and that took a toll on my first semester of college as I got a 30 in my first maths exam. And I almost failed calculus as well. So, in order to deal with this threshold, I had to resort to using my free time to watch several videos so I could be somewhat decent at maths and calculus. Moving on to the development, first of all, there are tests. Tests are the first part of the development of a hero's journey. So, by Campbell's definition, they are the series of challenges that the hero must come on top of, after having dealt with their thresholds, of course. In my case, tests are represented by subjects, since each and every one of them represent a challenge, which carries knowledge that will be helpful later on in my journey. For example, the block classes consist of 5 weeks of learning different topics to then make an exam based on them, but also to apply this knowledge to the real world via a final project. And this is a constant with almost every other class, except that one cannot learn all the topics from the block class alone, as the rest of the classes serve as complements for the block class. Next, the hero is not invulnerable and does not know it all. Thus, mentors are needed. Mentors are the beings that illuminate the hero with wisdom necessary for them to fulfill their purpose successfully. In my case, those mentors are my parents and one very good teacher, which has proven to be very important in my journey. To begin with, my parents are no engineers, but they know what has to be done to be good at something, since both of them are successful in their respective fields. To begin with, my mother is my emotional support and the one that always reminds me that I am human and I cannot expect to absolutely know everything despite that I insist otherwise. My mother is one of the main reasons I haven't given up on my career. As for my other reason, my father is the reason I'm in college in the first place, since he's the one who gave me the choice to choose where to study and what to study. And he makes sure to let me know that everything in life is gonna have a degree of difficulty. And my studies are no different. Thus, he reminds me that I have to be diligent with my studies in order to make good use of this opportunity. Finally, teacher Antonio has been pretty much my academic sensei throughout my journey. I met him in my first semester, and since then I have recurred to him whenever I have doubts that I cannot answer myself or with research. To conclude with the development, there is temptation. In simple words, temptations are vices that the hero falls in, which derail them from their journey. My main temptation throughout my journey has been video games. Since before enrolling in college, I actually thought about being a professional gamer or even YouTuber because I was decent at editing videos and adding some charisma to them. And I had talent for one competitive game which was extremely popular at the time, Apex Legends, to the point that I had participated in several semi-professional tournaments and even won some of them. Matter of fact, half a year before the end of high school, I already had planned to debut in an official amateur tournament hosted by EA, the developers of the game, which was going to be hosted during the first 2 weeks of August 2024, which could have served as an opportunity for me to get recruited to a pro team, but I had to invest time on it. And I had to gather another good players to make a team of 3, and on top of that, train for it, which would take time off school from my schedule, and it would be rinse and repeat for every tournament. Thus, I carefully analyzed my chances and figured out that engineering would be a much more stable path. Although I still find myself wondering if it was the right choice for me, because I love chemistry, and also the fact of applying it to a real world, which in and of itself it's engineering in simple terms. But I also love video games, and I value my free time plenty, which I don't have a lot of in chemical engineering. Thus, there are days where I spend too much time playing video games and wondering if I should go back to competing on other games, or even to open a YouTube channel and putting effort on it so I could have a backup in case that engineering doesn't pan out. Finally, there's the conclusion to my journey. First of all, superpowers or virtues are the tools and abilities that the hero has acquired on their way to completing their story, and that will help them defeat an enemy such as a mythological creature. For my story, throughout this journey, I have acquired the maturity to deal with frustrations and also a much better work ethic than the one I had at high school. Yet, these are not perfect. But these two are the main virtues that allow me to deal with the overwhelming amount of subjects per semester, which is the mythological creature in my story. Moving on, the final gift is the reward that the hero obtains after completing their journey. For me, the ultimate reward is to complete a semester without failing subjects, which I managed to do the last semester. However, this semester I already have 2 failed subjects. But that presents another gift within of itself, which is knowledge. The knowledge to deal with that frustration, and also knowledge of how to do what to do when the time to repeat the course comes. Finally, the mastery of 2 words in Campbell's work is defined as the moment when the hero transitions from their past selves to their present selves, those that can handle the new challenges presented to them. For me, throughout these 2 semesters, I have learned to be diligent with my studies and also to be careful when handling final projects and exams, since these are pretty much simulations of what awaits me in the real world.